Thank you, Ms. Dhillon. I want to get to, in my time for question, get to 3 questions. The first is about your priorities. Second one's about rebranding of DEI that we're starting to see, and then how you see it in the corporate sector as well. So I want to give you an additional opportunity to sort of amplify. How are you with this mission of ending racial discrimination? What are sort of your priorities across the sectors and making sure our civil rights laws are applied to protect individual rights?
Well, thank you for the question, Senator. It's a big job because, as you pointed out in your opening remarks, discrimination in the guise of DEI has permeated every level of our society. And so we are taking our guidance from the priorities of this administration and the obvious violations that are occurring, coupled with recent Supreme Court precedents that make our obligations clear. So with Students for Fair Admissions setting the way and making clear that the types of discrimination that our universities have engaged in for decades is illegal, that is a key focus because there are billions and billions of dollars. Some universities that we're investigating themselves receive over $1 billion a year in federal funding. And so our responsibility toward the taxpayers requires us to focus on those big ticket items, but we are also looking at offenders up and down the spectrum. In the employment field, similarly, you mentioned that there's a lot of discrimination happening in the big American corporations, but we're also seeing it throughout state and local governments. And again, we feel it is important for the economy and for the civil rights enforcement priorities to pursue those violations wherever we find them. And then, of course, I have a large portfolio beyond the DEI issues, and so we do our best with the various resources that we have.
You got a busy job. I want to, sort of the DEI now, I think the public has been educated to a much larger degree than it was, say, 5 years ago about what that really means beyond just sort of flowery language. But there is an effort now with some of these DEI programs to kind of use other vague terms to cloak the very divisive and discriminatory policies, whether it's community and belonging initiatives, and they relocate their staff in other ways that aren't called DEI officers anymore. What are you doing, or how are you identifying this, and then how would you approach addressing that as well? Because it's the same thing.
Well, Senator, when I hear the words or the slogan DEI, what I hear is discrimination, exclusion, and intolerance. And that's what we're seeing throughout all of these programs nationally. Now, we are relying on the public and whistleblowers throughout these organizations to let us know when this type of fake rebranding is occurring, and yet the same personnel and the same policies are continuing to perpetuate illegal discrimination on American citizens. And we are taking action. We are opening up investigations. Sometimes simply opening an investigation results in the individuals who are blatantly flouting our federal civil rights laws being terminated or reassigned or otherwise. And so we are seeing these actions take place throughout the United States. And I'm pleased to say that in response to several of the letters that I sent to open up federal civil rights investigations, many schools are stepping forward and voluntarily providing us with the data requested and showing that indeed they are honoring and following Students for Fair Admissions and other federal civil rights laws.
So as your division, your department gets back to sort of enforcing the plain language of the statute, there are also violations that exist in the corporate world, whether it's edicts from CEOs or the boardrooms or HR lawyers that are seeking to, again, to discriminate by another term. What are you guys doing? Are you relying on whistleblowers there? What can you share with us about how you're taking? I mean, this is predominant in big law. I mean, they don't even try to hide it. But what are you doing to identify that and pursue those as well?
Well, Senator, the primary jurisdiction for private employment violations rests with the EEOC, and I have almost daily conversations with the chair there. Many of those investigations are confidential, and unfortunately I cannot share details of those, but what I will say is that in the instances in which many of these top corporations are also government contractors, for example, in the defense industry or the tech industries, the agencies that are hiring them or giving them grants also have jurisdiction to open up investigations. Those investigations are happening throughout the United States federal government, and when those investigations are concluded without satisfactory resolution or termination of the DEI policies in question, these matters are often referred to the Civil Rights Division for further enforcement. So we are just getting started after our first 100 days, but I can promise that throughout the tenure of this administration, there will be numerous investigations and lawsuits against institutions that continue to offend our federal civil rights laws.
That's good to hear. One final question. Is this committee, jurisdiction and oversight, do you think it would be helpful if this committee were to subpoena or otherwise bring forward entities that might be in violation of this as well?
Unequivocally, yes, Senator.
Thank you. Okay. Well, it sounds